Hi, I'm Jason Levine with Harry Levine Insurance, and today we're going to talk about all the details surrounding flood insurance. Stuff like, why do you need it, when do you need it, and how does it work? Flood insurance is kind of like what it sounds like, but it's kind of not. It is a specific insurance program that would provide coverage for the peril of flood. That's a fantastic question, and it goes back to why I say very little is actually covered by flood insurance. You see, most water damage that you can think of is covered by your homeowners or your renters or other property insurance policy. Flood insurance covers very specifically the peril of flood as defined by the National Flood Insurance Program, which is administered by FEMA. So flood insurance is really designed to cover against damage by rising waters or inundation by water. So that rain situation actually could come to fruition, but it wouldn't necessarily be because water came through a window that was, say, broken by a tree branch. Your cause of loss then would actually be the tree branch breaking the window. So in a hurricane situation, that's actually a windstorm loss, even though driving rain came through that broken window and caused water damage. So in the rain example, if typically 2 or more adjacent properties or 1 acre or more in a specific location were inundated by rain to the point where there was flooding, then that could potentially be covered by flood insurance. As well, things like a river, lake, pond, storm surge from the ocean coming into a property and causing damage would be covered by flood insurance. So storm surge, let's say the ocean is all of a sudden in your home several blocks from the coast, would be covered almost certainly, never say always, by flood insurance. Flood insurance is effectively a property insurance product, meaning that it can cover your dwelling, so it can be a condo, an apartment, townhouse, single-family home, and it can also cover contents. And of course, flood is also available for business, again, to cover property, meaning the location of your business and contents within that location. Over the last 20 years, we've seen some really strange storm seasons. 2004 and 5 were an example, 2007 was an example, 2017 was an example, and it will certainly happen again. Basically, the entire state of Florida is a flood zone. And a lot of people falsely believe that they're not in a flood zone, but every single participating community in the United States, so that there's this system whereby communities participate in a program where there are elevation surveys done and they're assigned a flood risk rating. So to say in most populated areas, such as almost the entirety of the state of Florida, I'm not in a flood zone, is an improper statement. What you're really saying is, I'm in a zone X and my mortgage lender does not require me to have flood insurance. So let's take that a step farther and really understand it. Being in a zone X simply means it has not flooded in that location, or at least a flood has not been recorded in that location in the last 100 years. It does not mean that it will not flood. But because it's been assigned that zone X delineation, it means that your mortgage lender is not going to force you to carry flood insurance. Whereas, let's say you live on the beach, on a barrier island, or even in a low-lying area with something as small as a retention pond or next to a lake, your mortgage lender, depending upon flood zone, can actually require you to carry flood insurance, just like they require you, if you have a mortgage loan, to carry regular homeowners insurance. You can go to the National Flood Insurance Program website, nfip.org, and you can do some research there. You can also use a number of private sites through Google, or most easily, if you're interested in flood insurance, call your local trusted choice independent insurance agent. Ask for a flood quote. Flood insurance can start as low as, I believe now, still under $100. And depending upon whether you want just building coverage, building and contents coverage only, etc., there are a number of customizable options, but flood insurance is very inexpensive, and there are now a number of private flood insurance programs on the market, and they've been regulated such that they have to be as good or better than the national program. So in the last 5 years, we've made great strides in product quality when it comes to flood insurance. Quite literally, for a $250,000 house in a preferred flood zone, you could be talking under $500 a year. It's kind of like workers' comp on the commercial lines side of the house. Just because the state says, or your mortgage lender says at some point, we are not going to require you to have this, does not mean that you don't actually need it. It does not mean that it's not actually a good idea. So basically, it comes down to consulting with your independent insurance agent, looking at what your household budget is, and then deciding your risk tolerance. Granted, if you live on the top of a hill and there are no bodies of water anywhere nearby, it's probably unlikely that a flood is ever going to occur. However, I live in a golf course community, and I live, probably 100 yards from a pond that stretches almost a quarter mile. And even though it's highly unlikely, and I'm absolutely in a zone X, which means there are no recorded floods in a very, very long time, I still choose to pay just over $500 a year for flood insurance for that peace of mind. It's really simple. And I go back to a comment from a few moments ago about 2004, 5, 7, and 17. There are tropical cyclones, hurricanes, and tropical storms that can produce as much as 3 or 4 feet of rain within a day. That is enough water to inundate both the natural bodies of water around plus the retention facilities. It can overwhelm drainage facilities and create a situation where you have a ton of flash flooding. That's really the concern there. Not that it's going to be a flood like on the Mississippi River where the river crests and we're underwater for days, but where we have a flash flood situation, and that would not be covered by regular property or homeowners insurance. Because of the nature of floods, I mentioned the Mississippi River just a moment ago. You can see a river starting to crest, right? So over the years, a lot of people have tried to buy flood insurance at the last minute. Or same thing, hurricane's coming. It's going to be here on Sunday. It's Friday at 4 p.m. People are calling us, I need flood insurance. For that reason, flood insurance typically has a 30-day wait. If you buy flood insurance today, the effective date will actually be today plus 30 days. The exception is loan activity, meaning if you're closing on a new mortgage loan, it could be a refi or a new purchase, and flood insurance is required, then the effective date can be commensurate with the closing date of the loan. Otherwise, you're just looking at that 30-day wait. So the best time of year to get flood insurance is on the same day that your homeowner's policy renews. And the reason for that is they'll then be synced up and you can take care of both renewals at the same time. In what are considered higher risk flood zones, if you have a loan on the home, could be first mortgage, second mortgage, in some reverse mortgage situations, etc., the lender can actually require you as a condition of the loan to carry flood insurance. Absolutely. A business owner should look at flood insurance the same way a homeowner looks at it. A business often owns its location, and it often has property and or stock on premises. So a flood at a business location can cause the same problems, if not on a grander scale, than it can cause in a residential situation. You could have building damage to the location, you could have property damage to your desks and computers, to your stock, depending upon if the business is a retail operation or warehousing or whatever the case may be. Even if you're renting a house or an apartment, the flood is still a possibility, and you may have less concern about the physical dwelling, other than, of course, you want to be able to live in it, but it's not yours, right, if you're renting? But you may have furnished the whole living space, and you may have tens of thousands of dollars worth of your belongings there, and if water could get in and destroy them, then you've got an interest in contents flood insurance. Absolutely not. So that renter's insurance, I'll give the kind of example most people could relate to, is if a pipe breaks or the ice maker line comes off the fridge and floods the house, yes, that would be covered by a renter's policy, a homeowner's policy, regular business owner's policy, assuming that water coverage was there. There are products in the marketplace that limit or exclude water coverage, but assuming normal water coverage is there, that would be a covered loss. However, let's get that situation again where we have inundation by rising water. So, the first floor condo on the beach, has water come in from storm surge. That would not be covered by anything but flood insurance. And that brings me to a great point too, is okay, so I live on the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth floor, whatever the case may be, I don't need flood insurance. That's a fallacy. As long as the building could be damaged and need to be, demolished, portions of it, or you need to move out for a certain period of time, or whatever the case may be, living above ground level does not necessarily equate to not having a need for flood insurance. So now that you know that it doesn't matter whether you're on a fifth floor apartment, a beautiful home just feet from the sand at the beach, or in the interior here in Central Florida of our beautiful state, flood insurance is something that probably matters to you, and it probably matters more than you used to realize. So give us a call so that you can figure out the ideal situation when it comes to flood insurance for you. We're here for you, and we're ready and waiting to make sure that you've got peace of mind, whether you're at home or out enjoying your life.